Bandeham Shri Guru Shri Yatha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivashikam Vitam Scha Om Ajnana Timaranda Shagyana Jana Shalakaya Shakshurun Milidam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gorva Bhistam Supurakam Gurganara Sesha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipunam Shri Rupa Patanugam Govindabhidam Ujwalam Varatanum Bhaktiyan Vidam Sundaram Bande Vishwagurun Shah Divyat Bhagavat Prem Noe Bija Pradam Devam Divyatanum Suchandavaranam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyamburim Shri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Banditam Shubharam Mareka Sharanam Nyasishvara Sridharam Vanshakapatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the hidden treasure of the sweet absolute, with translation and commentary from Sanskrit and the Bengali given by Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev-Goswami Maharaj, and the English translation presented by Sripad Bhakti Ananda Sagar. So this is chapter 18, Moksha-yoga, the path of liberation, and we're on verses 51 through 53. Budhya Vishuddhaya Yukto Dhrityatmanam Niyamacha Shabdadin Vishayam Styaktva Ragadvesho Vyadasya Vivikta Sevi Lagvashi Jatavak Kayamanasa Jnana Yoga Parodintyam Vairagyam Samupashrita Hankaram Balam Darpam Kamam Krodam Parigraham Vimucha Nirmama Shanto Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Endowed with intelligence of the nature of goodness, mentally controlled through determination of the nature of goodness, rejecting the sense objects of sound, touch, form, taste, and smell, abandoning attachment and aversion, free from the association of materialistic persons, a temperate eater, disciplining the body, mind, and speech, constantly absorbed in thought of the Supreme Lord, and fully detached from the mundane world, giving up ego, power, vanity, desire, anger, and possessiveness, not thinking of anything as mine, being at peace, such a person is qualified for spiritual realization. Endowed with intelligence of the nature of goodness, mentally controlled through determination of the nature of goodness, rejecting the sense objects of sound, touch, form, taste, and smell, abandoning attachment and aversion, free from the association of materialistic persons, a temperate eater, disciplining the body, mind, and speech, constantly absorbed in thought of the Supreme Lord, and fully detached from the mundane world, giving up ego, power, vanity, desire, anger, and possessiveness, not thinking of anything as mine, being at peace, such a person is qualified for spiritual realization. A very full development of this chapter is called Moksha-yoga, and there you hear also the qualities of a person that you could say is liberated from the entanglements of this material nature, who's actually situated in that quality that's being described of Moksha-yoga, of liberation from the mundane platform. Let's see, the title again of the path of liberation. So we heard a description of what it is for someone situated on that path. Brahma bhuta prashanatmana shochati na kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labate param. The joyful-hearted, enlightened soul who has attained his divine nature neither sorrows nor desires. Seeing all beings equally, he comes to attain transcendental loving devotion for me. The joyful-hearted, enlightened soul who has attained his divine nature neither sorrows nor desires. Seeing all beings equally, he comes to attain transcendental loving devotion for me. So, Brahma bhuta prashanatma nashochati nakankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labate param. So this is someone who is situated on that Brahma bhuta platform. Brahma bhuta prashanatma, his joyful, enlightened soul, it says, who has attained that Brahma bhuta platform. The quality of such a person being nashochati nakankshati, neither desires for what he doesn't possess, nor laments for what he has lost. Samasarveshu bhuteshu, and seeing all beings equally, mad bhaktim labate param. At that point, he attains or is situated on the platform where he can engage in bhakti. Mad bhaktim, can engage in the worship of the Lord. So he's come to the divine plane or the divine position of liberation, the Brahma bhuta prashanatma, and he's situated in that, and he's free from desire, and he's free from lamentation, and he sees all living entities equally. And at that point, such a person attains the platform of devotional service. It's not that devotional service ends when one comes to the level of realization, but rather it says here, when someone has attained the divine platform of being situated on the Brahma bhuta platform, then such a person can engage in devotional service. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyas chasmi tatvata tatomam tatvato gyatva vishate tad anantaram. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyas chasmi tatvata tatomam tatvato gyatva vishate tad anantaram. Through devotion, he realizes that I am the Lord of all potencies and the sweet absolute. Then, realizing his divine relationship with me, he enters the company of my intimate associates who are non-different from my very self. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyas chasmi tatvata tatomam tatvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. Through devotion, he realizes that I am the Lord of all potencies and the sweet absolute. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavanyas chasmi tatvata. So we've also heard this explained. Bhakti-mama abhijanati yavanyas chasmi tattvata. Only through devotion can I be known. And here it says, through devotion, one realizes that I am the Lord of all potencies in the sweet absolute. But only Bhakti-mama abhijanati, through devotion, through bhakti, through loving service to the Lord. Yavanyas chasmi tattvata. Tato mam tattvato gyatva. Then realizing his divine relationship with me. Vishate tadanantaram. He enters the company of my intimate associates who are non-different from my very self. And I've heard Srila Sridhar Maharaj explain this. He says, Vishate tadanantaram. He enters into the Lord's family. So here it says, he enters the company of my intimate associates who are non-different from my very self. So, Bhakti-mama bijanati yavanyas chasmi tattvata, tato mam tattvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram. Through devotion, one can come to understand the Lord and engage in his devotional service. Then realizing his divine relationship, then here it mentions, he enters the company of my intimate associates who are non-different from my very self. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj says this means, or from his words, he said, one enters into the family of the Lord. So one of the qualities of surrender is, entering is to accept the Lord as one guardian. And we can also say that this refers to that. This verse is referring to that. And that's one of the qualities of the Lord. I mean, of surrender. To accept the Lord as one's guardian, but that also means to enter into the family of the Lord. Because what does it mean to accept someone as your guardian? You're accepting him, that person, as like a family member, or entering into the family of the Lord, accepting the Lord in that way. What is it? Then, uh, 56. Sarva karmani apisara kurvano mad yapashraya mat prasada davapnoti shashvatam padam avyayam. Sarva karmani apisara kurvano mad vyapasraya mat prasada avapnoti shashvatam padam avyayam. Although ever active in all duties, those who have taken refuge in me attain, by my grace, the eternal, indestructible plane of service. Although ever active in all duties, those who have taken refuge in me attain, by my grace, the eternal, indestructible plane of service. So, now how will one attain the Lord's grace? How will one attain the eternal indestructible plane of service? Well, that plane of divine service already exists, and it can descend to one by the grace of the Vaishnavas and the realized souls as one's spiritual master. Because I sometimes used to think of the verse where it says, what is that verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which talks about how one engages in service to the Lord, and that should be without without any stopping and without any any stopping and without any material motivation. What is that verse? It's Srimad Bhagavatam. It's see, today I'm forgetting things. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhoksaje. Ahaituki ya pradiyatma ya yatma suprasidati. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhoksaje. Ahaituki ya pradiyata ya yatma suprasidati. So it's saying that this verse, Savai Pumsam Paro Dharma, the highest engagement that one can have, the Savai Pumsam, the Paro Dharma, the highest activity, the highest engagement that one can have, Savai Pumsam Paro Dharma, Yato Bhaktir Adhoksaja, is to establish a loving relationship with the Lord. And that relationship, Ahaituki Yapradiyatma, should be free from any material motivation and should be also without cessation, without stopping. Yayatma suprasidati. And that will completely satisfy one's soul, oneself. So I used to think about this, and I would think that how can it's possible to be engaged in devotional service where there's no material motivation and there's no cessation, no ending. I was thinking, everything I do in life practically, it has some material motivation, one way or another. It's coming from my mental, my mind, like as the verse says about, what is the beginning of the verse where it says, a wicked mind brought me into this world. That we, the song we're always singing in the Emona Durmati. A wicked mind brought me into this world. So I have a wicked mind. So how will my activities be without any motivation when they're coming from this fleshy plane? They're coming through the body, they're coming through the mind. So many times, and how will there be no cessation? Because sometimes we feel very good and we're all eager to do something, and then sometimes we're all mentally disturbed. Maybe we have some disease, or maybe we have a headache, or maybe we have some problem. So how can one say that without any cessation? I was thinking, how can one attain a level of devotion where there's no material motivation and there's no ending? But then Srila Sridhar Maharaj explains that one meaning of without any material motivation, a haituki, Guru Maharaj, he explains that plane already exists and it can descend to one through the Vaishnavas. So it's not just a question of your activities. Through the mercy of the Vaishnavas, through the mercy of the Guru, that plane, which is already existing, there are eternal souls engaged in devotional service, unending with the Lord, and by the grace of the Vaishnavas, we see that plane can descend to one. And if you read Brihad Bhagavatamrita, how Gopakumar was welcomed there. They thought it was considered, well, he went to the level of Vaikuntha, and he wasn't at all like in the right place. You could see that. He's saying, hey Hari, hey Hari, and he's calling out, hey Hari, hey Krishna, like that. And they're saying, this is not the way of speaking of someone who is in Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha is the level of Aishvarya Gyan, awe and reverence and much respect. It's distance between the Lord and the devotee. So that's not the plane for someone like Gopakumar. He's rather uneducated. He's rather very liberal in what he says. So they debate, well, should we send him to to the level of Dwarka or something like that. No. He's not going to fit in there either. That's still something of Vaikuntha. Better send him directly to the Lord's abode, the Krishna Loka. And there we see that when Gopakumar comes, then Krishna accepts him and embraces him. So we can say that, and I was saying, to enter into the family of the Lord. I couldn't remember the words also. Goptrit Vevaranam. That this verse that we just read is talking about entering into the family of the Lord. And that's one of how Guru Maharaj describes the quality of Goptrit Vevaranam. And that means accepting the Lord as one's guardian. And that is entering into the family of the Lord. So in this verse, it says, this verse is, although ever active in all duties, those who have taken refuge in me attained by my grace the eternal, indestructible plane of service. So as I was explaining, the level of attaining that, savai pumsam paro dharmo, yato bhaktir ad hoksaje, ahaituki yapradiyatma. That ahaituki means that it has no material motivation. So Srila Maharaj says, that also means that plane already exists. Just like the word Om, what you're looking for exists. But that plane can come to us through the mercy of the Vaishnavas and through devotional service, through our surrender to devotional service and the mercy of the Vaishnavas, that plane can descend to one. It's not that ahaituki doesn't just mean without any material motivation. It also means that plane, that spiritual pure plane exists and it can descend to one. Because everything's coming from through the mercy of the Vaishnavas. And Guru Maharaj also says the word, yapradiyatma, without any cessation, without stopping. That also, Guru Maharaj says, that means irresistible. Irresistible. You cannot resist it. And you can think of that easily. Here we're living in Santa Cruz. So many people are on surfboards. They're waiting for some wave. Sometimes I see them sitting on their surfboards for an hour trying to catch a wave. But what will happen if a big tsunami comes? If a big tsunami comes, you don't have to worry about catching the wave. The wave will catch you. And it will carry you very far, whether you have a surfboard or not. Because why? We can say that wave is so powerful, it's irresistible. You don't have to worry about catching that wave on an endeavor on your part. Guru Maharaj says, ahaituki apradiyatma means that the plane of devotion already exists, that it is eternal, and it's also irresistible. No stopping. It's not something that begins and stops and begins and stops. Because it is so irresistible, it will carry you. That is also a meaning. So I'm just giving an example from this world that we can understand, a tsunami. If you're caught in a tsunami, you're in the water and you're caught in a tsunami, that wave will carry you. Whether you're a good surfer or not, you get carried very far by that wave. So, although ever active in all my duties, those who have taken refuge in me attain by my grace the eternal indestructible plane of service. Then, Chaitasa sarvakarmani mayi sanyasya matpara buddhiyogam upashritya matschitta saratambhava. Chaitasa sarvakarmani mayi sanyasya matpara buddhiyogam upashritya matschitta saratambhava. Wholeheartedly offering your every action to me, knowing me as the supreme objective, and fully dedicating your intelligence to me, being unattached to worldly action. be ever devoted to me. Wholeheartedly offering your every action to me, keeping me as the supreme objective, and fully dedicating your intelligence to me, being unattached to worldly action, be ever devoted to me. And it's very nice because this chapter, the 18th chapter, it's titled as Moksha-yoga, the path of liberation. And describing Moksha-yoga, the path of liberation. But here we're hearing everything is about devotion to the Lord. This verse is saying, wholeheartedly offering your every action to me, keeping me as the supreme objective, and fully dedicating your intelligence to me, being unattached to worldly action, be ever devoted to me. So how can that be? There's Moksha-yoga, and here what's being described is a relationship between the Lord and his devotee, and it's done in the most personal terms, wholeheartedly offering your every action to me, because it's offering wholeheartedly, sarva karmani, all actions, mayi, to me, mat parama, keeping me as the supreme objective. It's very personal. It's not some impersonal conception of moksha, of liberation. Rather, wholeheartedly offering your every action to me, keeping me as the supreme objective, and fully dedicating your intelligence to me, being unattached to worldly action, be ever devoted to me. Now, how can you interpret that impersonally? It's all about. This is a chapter of moksha, liberation, but here Krishna is saying, just as he said in Bhakti Mama Bijanati Yamanyas Jasmi Tatvata Tato Mam Tatvato Gyatva Vishate Tadanantaram, that when one is on that divine plane of Brahmabhuta Prashanatma, Nashochati Nakangshasti, free from desires for Nakangshati Sarasar Brahmabhuta Prashanatma Nashochati Nakangshati, free from lamentation, free from desires. Madbhaktim labate param. At that point, one can attain the level of devotion. So everything here is being described in terms of devotion to the Lord, wholeheartedly offering your every action to me, keeping me as the supreme objective, and fully dedicating your intelligence to me, being unattached to worldly action, be ever devoted to me. Mat chitta sarva durgani, mat prasadat tarishyasi, atachet tvam ahankaran, na shrosyasi vinakshasi. Giving your heart to me, you will be able to overcome all obstacles by my grace. But if out of pride you do not heed my words, you will perish. So, Krishna speaking very lovingly to Arjuna, giving your heart to me, you will be able to overcome all obstacles by my grace. If you consider everything, even though you're engaged in the most fearful situation. Arjuna is in a situation where he is engaged in this battle where he already knows that practically the whole opposition, everyone will be destroyed, will be killed, and all his men, they will also be destroyed. Because when Krishna revealed the universal form, the Vishvarupa, to Arjuna, Arjuna saw all these soldiers being gnashed, being smashed by the teeth of the universal form. And what that meant is all these persons are going to die. All the persons on the opposing side, the Kurus, the whole dynasty will be destroyed, and so many of your associates on here who have joined with the Pandavas, they will also be destroyed. And And it's a very fearful situation. And Krishna says, this has already been determined. Whether you walk away or participate, whatever you do, this will be the outcome. You can't change that. Then he says, here Krishna says, but you don't have to be so concerned, because he's telling Arjuna, giving your heart to me, you will be able to overcome all obstacles by my grace. But if out of pride you do not heed my words, you will perish. So there's nothing you cannot change the outcome, but at the same time, you just approach everything every obstacle, every situation you encounter in life, you consider that as, that you are to engage and see somehow everything in terms of devotion, your relationship of devotion to the Lord. So we're all approaching life, and we cannot always understand what is our purpose in life or what we are doing. But Krishna is saying this to Arjuna, and Arjuna's great devotee, a very strong soldier, but the Lord says, giving your heart to me, you will be able to overcome all obstacles by my grace. But if out of pride you do not heed my words, you will perish. So it's very, very clear. We can say that the position of Arjuna is very defined. There isn't too much he can do, that he will do to change it. But rather Krishna is saying, this is going to happen, but how you will deal with this, if you will heed my words, you will see everything and be dependent on me, see everything in terms of your devotion, of your relationship with me, of your surrender to me, then you will be able to overcome the worst or the most difficult obstacles. And certainly the battle of Kurukshetra represents the most extreme form of obstacle for Arjuna. And Krishna says, so if you keep in mind what I'm saying, what I'm explaining in terms of devotion, then you will be able to overcome all these obstacles. So, but if out of pride you do not heed my words, you will perish. So that's a very clear situation. Yadahankaram ashritya na yodsya iti manyase mityaiva vyavasayaste prakritis tvam niyokshati. Yadahankaram ashritya na yodsya iti manyase mityaiva vyavasayaste prakritis tvam niyokshati. Out of pride you are thinking, out of pride you are thinking, I shall not fight. But your decision will be in vain, for your nature as a Kshatriya will compel you to fight. Out of pride you are thinking, I shall not fight. I will decide what I will do. I shall not fight. He's thinking, I will make this decision. But Krishna says, but your decision will be in vain. You won't be able to avoid fighting. Out of pride, you're thinking, I shall not fight. But your decision will be in vain. You won't be, because for your nature is as a Kshatriya, and it will compel you to fight. You can't avoid fighting. Your nature is as a Kshatriya. And you can understand how a Kshatriya, he will be challenged. He cannot avoid fighting. But he should not fight out of his own pride. He should fight as the Lord has requested, as an act of devotion to Krishna. Sabhava jena konteya nibadha svena karmana kartum nichasi yanmohat karashyasi avasho pitat. Sabhava jena konteya nibadha svena karmana kartum nichasi yanmohat karishyasi avasho pitat. O Konteya, Arjuna, O Konteya, being bound by the duty born of your nature, that very action which out of delusion you are now avoiding will be inevitably executed by you. O Konteya, being bound by the duty born of your nature, that very action which out of delusion you are now avoiding will be inevitably executed by you. There's so many situations. You're thinking you won't engage in fighting, but this fighting will be forced upon you. You will not be able to avoid it. You'll be in so many situations where if you don't fight, you'll be humiliated and everything will be in a the outcome will be very questionable. You'll feel impelled by duty to defend those who are defenseless. Okontia, being bound by the duty born of your nature, that very action, which out of delusion you are now avoiding, will be inevitably executed by you. You can't change that. You can't change your nature. Ishvara sarva bhutanam vriddya Arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra rudani mayaya. Ishvara sarva bhutanam vriddya Arjuna tishtati brahmamayam sarva bhutani yantra rudani mayaya. O Arjuna, the Supreme Lord is situated in the hearts of all beings, and by his deluding potency, he causes them to revolve through many existences like puppets riding a carousel. Let's see. We're not so much thinking in terms of puppets riding a carousel. Let's see. O Arjuna, Sarva Bhutani, for all beings, Ishvara, the Supreme Lord, as the Super Soul, Tishtati, is situated, Riddeshe, in one's heart, in the region of the heart, Mayaya, by his illusory potency, Sarva Bhutani, Brahmayan, he causes all living beings to revolve through many existences, Yantra Rudani, Eva, as though riding a carousel, but Yantra Rudani Eva. So it says as riding a carousel. I would think more in terms of, if you're going to mention puppets, as puppets being pulled by a string. The example of puppets riding a carousel is not, it's not so much I cannot so much easily picture puppets riding a carousel. It's not something that usually comes to mind. We can think of someone riding a carousel. And it is true, one is revolving through many existences, so the idea of revolving is there. But here, the words Yantra Rudani, Yantra Arudaniva, is to me more as puppets are pulled by a string. Now I don't know in time of the Gita, or rather when the Bhagavad Gita is spoken, I believe they have this idea of puppets on strings or being pulled by a string. Well, we can understand that as someone is being pulled by cords or gunas attached to one anyway, but O Arjuna, the Supreme Lord is situated in the hearts of all beings, and by his deluding potency, he causes them to revolve through many existences, like puppets riding a carousel. Or, okay, as if controlled, and you can say as if controlled, or puppets on a string. Tam eva sharanam gacha sarva bhavena bharata taprasadat param shantim stanam prapshasis shashvatam. O Bharata, wholeheartedly surrender to him. By his grace you will attain the supreme peace and the eternal abode. tam eva sharanam gacha sarva bhavena bharata tat prasadad param shantim stanam prapsyasi shashvatam. O Bharata, wholeheartedly surrender to him. By his grace you will attain the supreme peace and the eternal abode. So, we'll see. We have this week we have readings. Today is Monday, we'll have Tuesday, then Wednesday, Arun Krishna will speak, and on Thursday we'll have Bhagavad Gita again. So we have Tuesday and Thursday, and I believe this week we'll finish the Bhagavad Gita, and we can see. Then there's the glories of the Gita and other additional praise of the Gita that can be sung, but we'll see. For now, I'm going to stop here. We'll sing Hari Haraya. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Dharadhara Shiva Sari Gora Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhakta Raghunath Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Echai Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan Jaite Vignana Shabi Sapuran Echai Gosai Jar Mohit Aradas Kasava Pada Renu Mora Panchagras Kadir Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Janame More Abhilas Echai Gosai Jabe Braje Kolabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pare Manchai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koryas Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratam Udas. Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koryas. Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratam Udas. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo. Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Garanga Gandharvika Giridhari Juki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajaka Ashtatara Sadashi Srimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev-Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajaka Ashtatara Sadashi Srimad Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev-Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Prem Se Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai. Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Vishvavaranya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Nirmawacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Nandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Madhacharya Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ram Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Shri Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Shri Koladvip Ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Seva Ashram Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Madhurani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopi Govardhan. Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Jo Ki Jai. Shri Purushottama Dham Ki Jai. All the Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Jo Ki Jai. Bhakta Prabhara Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Nishingadev ki jai. All the assembled devotees ki jai. Sripad Bhakti Bandhava Puri Maharaj ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hare Bha. Well.